Hello and welcome to Precontation Points video Snark. I'm making my way through Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerri Maniscalco. If you haven't seen the other videos about the book, please make sure that you do, or else you might be confused. Links will be posted below. Chapter 25, A Valet from Mother's Grave, Dr. Jonathan Wadsworth's Residence, Highgate, 8th of November, 1888. Audrey goes to a box of Miss Emma Elizabeth's things in Uncle's attic. Apparently not even her family had any more figs to give about her, and all of her belongings ended up in his attic, where even he couldn't be bothered to care for them much. I don't see sense in what you're doing, Wadsworth. Why not confront your father and be done with it? Sneaking about like a prostitute is by far the worst idea you've come up with. Congratulations, he said, unlatching his arms and clapping slowly. You've achieved something memorable, even if it's ridiculous. What's this? Somebody making sense in a young adult novel? Utter rubbish, really. See also the story's singular brain cell bouncing around on the screen. It just hit a corner, and it means that somebody is going to have to say something smart. Audrey goes on to say that she hasn't quite yet crossed Thomas off from her list of suspects. Thomas thinks that that line of thinking is nonsense, as he's been with her a lot. And then he implies that they should sleep together in order to prove his innocence, because of course he does. We've done things your way for a solid 3 weeks, I reminded him, earning us nothing but mounds of frustration. Enough is enough, Thomas. We tried hiding outside my home on Belgrave Square, camping out at all hours of the night, all times throughout the day, but never succeeding in catching Father coming or going. I'd even gone as far as etching his carriage for identification purposes, should we ever see it rolling about at night. They've done everything that they could, except to alert the actual authorities about her suspicions. Or anybody, really. Thomas then realizes that since he can't talk Audrey out from putting on the old dress to blend in, he might as well join her. He starts to look for suitable clothes for himself as well. He is my father, I said through clenched teeth. You honestly believe he'll harm me? I do not think he has a heart so black and rotten. The dude kicked her out from her own house. Because reasons. And she thinks that he wouldn't hurt her? Too late for that, baby cakes. Thomas is quick to point out how stupid that she's being with her dumb plan. What will she do when the killer, her father or otherwise, has a knife pressed through her neck? To demonstrate, Thomas suddenly lunges for her to show how quick that these kind of attacks can happen. He kisses her cheek though, but Audrey is still angry over the entire thing. Although apparently it's his turn for the brain cell, because he is not wrong. If her father is deranged enough to be murdering girls on the street, I don't think that he's likely to give a fig about his own daughter, whom I would like to remind you he kicked out from his own house. Not exactly Father of the Year material. Thomas prompts her to do something differently when she's actually attacked and encourages her to stomp on somebody's foot. However, Audrey says that she'll stomp on his foot if he tries to kiss her again. They rock around in the slums for a while. Thomas has adopted a limp, which grates on Audrey's nerves. However, Thomas points out that most of the women Jack killed were drunk, so maybe Audrey should be stumbling about like she's drunk. Audrey refuses and eventually suggests that they should go home. As they turn to go, they're set upon by somebody. He knocks Thomas to the ground and holds a knife to Audrey's throat, which is exactly what Thomas had warned her about. Literally what he tried to demonstrate could happen. The guy seems upset about somebody named Libby being cut up, and then he starts to cry, but he also nicks Audrey's neck a little. This snaps her out from the days of the initial attack, and she slams her heel down on the guy's foot like Thomas had told her to do. This provides enough of an opportunity for them to get away from the madman. As they take off, Audrey asks Thomas what in the name of sanity that the man was talking about, but Thomas has more pressing concerns right now, mainly that Audrey almost died. He kisses her, and Audrey returns it. After establishing who kissed who first, they finally get back to the madman. Remember Oliver, the guy from the morgue? Yeah, me neither. He had been giving Thomas unclaimed bodies, or so he'd said. The man seemed upset that Thomas had taken the body of his girlfriend/wife/whoever and done experiments on her. Thomas is kind of mortified to realize this and says that he never intended to cause anybody any kind of emotional harm like that. This outburst leads Audrey to the conclusion that Thomas is way too kind and nice to be Jack. Not like he couldn't be putting on an act or anything, but okay. We're running out of book here, so I'll just go with it. We are stalking Jack the Ripper, I pointed out. And title drop. As they start to return to Uncle's house, they see Audrey's father's carriage, in the middle of the night, in the slums of London. Chapter 26, Black Mary, Miller's Court, Whitechapel, 9th of November, 1888. Audrey's mind is a whirl with possibilities. She even briefly considers the thought that the coachman is Jack, because a man of her father's standing would never drive a coach by himself. But murder isn't off the table here? Should we fetch the police or give it more time? Why does she suddenly want to go to the police now? Thomas suggests that they wait, so they do. After a while, a man and a woman step outside and Audrey identifies the man as her father. She describes the woman, and yes, now is probably an appropriate time to describe somebody's physical appearance. Audrey isn't sure why her father has sought this woman out, but either way, she knows that something like this can't possibly be good. The woman sings some song and Audrey can't help but feel a sense of foreboding. I don't know if this will be important or not, and I'm still angry about that gravy. Thomas points out to Audrey that her father is rounding the corner, so Audrey shakes off her foreboding, certain that it was only just because of the attack a few minutes earlier. They go to follow him. However, the narration skips to the next morning where Thomas reads reports about how there was another Jack slain the night before. Audrey is dumbfounded because they'd followed her father back to the house. She offers up the idea that maybe he'd slipped out again, but I'm wondering if they didn't happen to see him post-murder. When the news broke that morning, they told Uncle about Audrey's suspicions. However, he was quick to dismiss the idea that his brother was Jack. That was 4 hours earlier, right before he'd left to examine the new body. And the fact that it's taking so long worries Audrey something fierce. Also, the address was given in the paper, and Audrey is certain that it was the ginger lady that they saw with her father. Thomas gets angry over Audrey's pacing, which quickly turns into the two of them flirting, because of course it does. Before it can go much further than a few traded words, Uncle comes in. Apparently the body was in way worse shape than the other victims had been. Behind Uncle come some people carrying the latest body. When Audrey sees the victim, she has to run off to be physically ill. This is because of the cruelty inflicted upon the poor woman. When she returns, she also notes that Thomas's usually cool veneer has slipped a little at the sight of something so awful. Uncle urges Audrey to get to the task at hand because Blackburn wants the body back in 2 hours, which strikes Audrey as unusual. They get to work, and the state of the body is described. However, I think that most people will thank me for not dwelling too much on it, as it is quite graphic. But the heart was removed, exactly like Uncle had predicted earlier. Audrey then brings up why Blackburn wants the body back so quickly. She brings up the possibility that he's father's accomplice. Despite Uncle having brushed her idea off so easily earlier, he now says that they have to be open to all possibilities, but Audrey isn't convinced that Uncle is taking her seriously. She asks Thomas to help her take down Jack, and he's like, "Obviously I'm going to help you." But Uncle tells Thomas to take the evidence over to Blackburn before they arrest him for being Jack again. And rather than simply waiting an hour or two for Thomas to return, Audrey takes this to mean that she's going to confront Jack/her father on her own, because one hasn't a protagonist in a young adult novel felt the need to rush headfirst into an insanely dangerous situation with zero backup. Thanks for listening to my book Snark on YouTube. If you're enjoying this, please hit that subscribe button. I post a new Snark video every Monday, but if you're eager for more Snark, you can check out my review of The Plan. If you've already seen that, then you can head over to Tumblr for my main book Snarks, and if all of that is somehow still not enough for you, then you can become my Patreon supporter for just $1 a month and read a bunch of bonus Snarks that isn't up anywhere else. See you next week, guys!